Darlings, it's Mummy, Sybil Bruncheon, coming to you live on a new Tour-ette from my my little driveway gardens here in the suburbs of Philadelphia. For those of you that have been following along, I have two driveway gardens. So one's there, right there, and this is the other one. This is the narrow one. This is like 3 feet across by 35 feet long. It's literally a strip between my driveway and my lovely neighbor's driveway. And I've planted, here's myrtle, which is wonderful. I rescued that. And here's the most beautiful stand of hyacinths you've ever seen. They were gorgeous. Look at my wonderful hydrangea. Absolutely amazing. Amazing. It started out as dead sticks this spring, and I was terrified for it, and I pruned it. And I don't know that it's going to have blossoms, but it certainly is leafing and becoming healthy looking, so we'll see what happens. But this is what I wanted to show you. For those of you that have been following my little garden tourettes, it only takes a few days of leaving your garden alone. Go away for a few days the way I did to Cherry Grove, Fire Island. I went there for 3-4 days, and in my absence, this is what happened. These irises, which were all budding, bloomed and just exploded open. Are they gorgeous or what? The former tenants here planted these, God knows when, and they are just a riot of the most vibrant purple. You should see them at sunset when the leftover sunlight is still in them. They look bright now. Oh my God. At sunset, when the sun has dipped behind the trees over there in the west, these purple irises literally are shaking with color. They literally quiver with color. They are breathtaking. I haven't even deadheaded any of them yet. For those of you that are curious about irises, when the iris blossom fades, like this one, they go from a bud to that to this. When they do, get a pair of garden snips, very sharp garden snips. You could use scissors, but I really would recommend snips. And sterilize them with rubbing alcohol. You get a bottle of rubbing alcohol, put a spritzer top on it, and spray them. Always make sure you sterilize anything you cut plants with between cuttings, so that you don't infect one plant with another's whatever might be there. Anyway, snip these off, and those buds below will be given the energy and the strength to go ahead. You can keep them blooming and budding and blooming and budding until they run out of buds. But you can see, if you look at below these other flowers, there's all sorts of little buds coming up. And if you deadhead them in time, and do it carefully so you don't damage the buds that are coming, you will have a crop of iris that will continue to go and go. Look, they get so heavy they fall over. They're just tremendous. I'm so pleased with them, and they smell lovely. It's very subtle, but it's lovely. My daylilies, I tucked them in there not knowing that there were going to be irises like this. So I don't know what to do yet. I might just let them be there this summer, and then in the fall I might carefully transplant them to a happier place for them. Speaking of irises, here's more. This was also planted, I assume, by the former tenants, but look at this. First of all, they planted an orphan yellow in there, and boy, is that yellow the quintessential iris yellow. Absolutely breathtaking. And then they planted a biracial or bisexual or whatever that iris is, but that's tucked in there too. So you see, even gays and lesbians, you see, even in the iris world, there is an LGBTQ, transgender, bi thing, whatever, presence, and they should be honored and respected. And that smells too differently than the purples, and the purples smell differently than that yellow. It's just wonderful. And then, last but not least, here is the little stand of irises that I was given by a neighbor who saw that I was doing all this gardening, and over there, all this gardening. And she had a pot of irises on her back deck, and the pot broke. And rather than repot it or try to find a place to put it in her land, she gave it to me. She brought it here. And so I've been wondering, she hadn't even told me what color they were. So I was curious, and there they are. So I put them down here at the end with the other irises. And, just to give you an idea of the soil that Mummy has to deal with here, this is what our soil looks like. It is the ugliest, most rotten, gravel-filled, hard clay, rubbish you've ever tried to plant anything in. And these plants all deserve Purple Hearts for struggling and doing so well. I augured the soil, I did it all. But I mean, this iris stand is doing well even with this horrible soil. And that's what all the soil is. All right, that's the end of part one, and I will do part two on my garden and what happened while I was in Cherry Grove. I was gone for a couple of days, and miracles happened. And I think there's a metaphor in that, don't you? Yes, be present, be mindful, be grateful. Everything you see and smell and touch and taste, everything you hold in your hand, everything you hear, the birds at this very moment, everything is only borrowed. It's all just borrowed, darlings. Stay tuned for part two.